June 4th, 1942. 10:22 a.m. The Pacific Ocean. 50 American dive bombers are pushing through broken cloud cover. Engines straining, pilots sweating. Most of them think they are flying to their deaths. The plane they are flying is the SBD Dauntless, and by every measure that matters in 1942, it should not exist. It's slow. A Japanese Zero can outrun it without trying. It has perforated dive flaps that look like a cheese grater. Its range barely gets it where it needs to go. The Navy had already ordered its replacement before the war started. Japanese admirals had studied American carrier aircraft. They knew about the Dauntless. They weren't worried. That was their first mistake. Because the Dauntless didn't need to be fast. It didn't need to dogfight. It needed to do one thing: fall out of the sky at exactly the right moment and put a bomb through the deck of a carrier. It was about to do that 4 times in 6 minutes. But to understand what happens at 10:22 a.m., you need to go back. Back to a Navy that almost scrapped this plane entirely. Back to the pilots who flew it anyway. And back to the morning that changed the entire Pacific War. The SBD Dauntless entered service in 1940. Nobody was excited. It was already considered outdated. The Navy wanted faster, wanted modern. The SBD's replacement, the SB-2C Helldiver, was already in development. The Dauntless was supposed to be a placeholder, a stopgap, something to use until the real plane arrived. Then Pearl Harbor happened. Suddenly America was at war, and the Helldiver wasn't ready. The factories weren't producing it fast enough. The bugs weren't worked out. And the Navy found itself going into the most critical naval campaign in its history with the plane it had been trying to replace. The Dauntless crews knew what everyone thought of their aircraft. They flew it anyway. Coral Sea, May 1942, the first major carrier battle in history. American and Japanese carriers clash for the first time. The Dauntless scores hits on the Japanese carrier Shokaku, badly damages her, forces her out of the war for months. Not bad for an obsolete plane. But Coral Sea was just the warm-up. 1 month later, the Japanese combined fleet is moving toward Midway Atoll. 4 fleet carriers, the finest naval air force ever assembled. Hundreds of experienced pilots who had been fighting and winning since 1937. And Admiral Yamamoto has a plan. Midway will be taken. America's remaining carriers will be drawn out and destroyed. The Pacific will belong to Japan. He has one problem. He doesn't know the Americans have broken his codes. He doesn't know they're waiting for him. And he has no idea what 50 obsolete dive bombers are about to do to his fleet. But before the dive bombers get their moment, someone else has to go first. Torpedo Squadron 8, 15 TBD Devastator torpedo bombers. Every single pilot knows the odds going in. The Devastator is even slower than the Dauntless. It has to fly low and straight toward the target to drop its torpedo. No evasion, no escape. They go anyway. All 15 planes are shot down. Not one torpedo hits a Japanese carrier. Ensign George Gay, the sole survivor, watches the battle from the water, clinging to a seat cushion. They didn't sink a single ship. But they pulled every Zero in the combat air patrol down to the waves, chasing slow torpedo bombers at low altitude, and in doing so, they cleared the sky for what was coming next. 10:20 a.m., June 4th, 1942. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey has a problem. He led his dive bomber group to the coordinates where the Japanese fleet was supposed to be. Nothing. Empty ocean. His planes are burning fuel they don't have. Some of his pilots are already calculating whether they have enough to make it back. McCluskey makes a decision. He turns northwest and keeps searching. Then he sees it. A lone Japanese destroyer cutting a white wake through the blue water below. Moving fast. Moving towards something. McCluskey follows it. At 10:22 a.m., the clouds break. And there they are. 4 Japanese fleet carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, spread across the ocean below. Decks crowded with aircraft. Planes fully fueled, fully armed. Engines warming for the next strike. The Japanese combat air patrol is down low, chasing American torpedo bombers that came in minutes earlier. Nearly all of them were shot down. They died without hitting a single carrier. But they pulled the Zeros down to the water and left the sky above the fleet completely open. McCluskey doesn't hesitate. He pushes the nose over and begins his dive. 49 Dauntless dive bombers follow him down. The Japanese sailors see them too late. In the next 6 minutes, 3 carriers are hit. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu. All 3 are burning within minutes. Fuel lines rupture. Bombs cook off on the decks. Pilots who minutes ago were preparing to finish off the American fleet are jumping into the ocean. Hiryu gets away initially, launches a counterstrike, hits the American carrier Yorktown twice. Then American dive bombers find her too. By evening, all 4 carriers are gone. 4 carriers gone. 250 aircraft gone. Hundreds of veteran pilots gone. Japan had spent years building this force. These were the same carriers that launched the attack on Pearl Harbor. The same pilots who had never lost. And the plane that did it, the slow, outdated cheese grater dive bomber that the Navy had been trying to replace for 2 years, had just delivered the most decisive blow in naval aviation history. The Helldiver eventually arrived. Faster, more modern, more powerful, crews hated it. It was unreliable, dangerous, and difficult to fly. They called it the Beast. They called it other things too. And quietly, in the hangars and ready rooms of the Pacific Fleet, pilots who had flown both aircraft said the same thing. They wished they still had the Dauntless, the plane nobody wanted,